Start.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. Good morning, my fellow Giantins. I am Akhila Mohan, going to present the article IDFC First Bank Promoter Warburg may not participate in fundraising. The board of IDFC First Bank has approved a plan to raise rupees 3,000 crore by way of private placement, qualified institutional placement QIP, follow on public offering, or a combination of these to help spur growth at the bank, but the promoter, IDFC Financial Holding Company Limited, may not take part in this fundraising. Sources in the know said the bank was gearing up for rollout of QIP by the end of the current fiscal year, March 2021. IDFC First Board on February 18th approved up to 3,000 crores in one more tranches. In a BSE filing, the lender said she said the funds would be raised by the way of issuance of securities through one or more permissible modes, including but not limited to a private placement, QIP, follow-on public offering, or a combination thereof. The bank is planning a QIP by the end of the current fiscal year, Business Standard reported. QIP seems to be preferred mode, and the bankers to the issues likely to be appointed next week. The objective is to ensure that the capital raise is completed in this fiscal year. A Warburg affiliate is buying 86.24 million shares at rupees 23.19 apiece in the bank via the presidential allotment. This is the 10th of the total rupees 2,000 crores that the bank is raising through the preferential share allotment, a stock exchanging filing shows. That's all about my article. Thank you so much.
Good morning, all. I am Alan Thomas John. I am presenting you the news. The foreign exchange reserves declined by 6.24 billion to 583.94 billion. So, as per the RBI's data on Friday, the country's foreign exchange reserves declined by $6.24 billion to reach $583 billion. In the previous week, the reserves had touched a record height of US dollars 590.185 billion after rising by US dollars 4.8 billion. The decline in the forex was mainly on account of fall in foreign currency assets, a major component of the overall reserves. The FCS decreased by $4.8 billion to $542.338 billion. The foreign currency assets include the effect of appreciation or depreciation of non-US units like the euro, pound, and yen held in the foreign exchange reserves. The gold reserves decreased by US dollars 1.327 billion to US dollars 34.967 billion in the reporting week. The special drawing rights with the IMF dipped by US dollars 6 million to US dollars 1.503 million. The country's reserve position with the IMF also declined by US dollars 27 million to 5.138 billion in the reporting week, as per the data. That's all. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, my dear classmates. This is Alvin PJ, and I'm going to present about the news. IKEA armed to set up the first shopping mall in India for rupees 5,500 crore. The Inca Centers, the part of Inca Group, which also owns the most of IKEA stores worldwide, on Friday said that it was setting up its first online shopping center in India for an investment of rupees 5,500 crore. This will mark a significant step up for the group's big box retail plans in the country. The group already has two flagship IKEA stores in India, one in Hyderabad, other one in Navi Mumbai, measuring over 4 lakh square meter each. Square feet each. The proposed mall to be launched in Noida, Uttar Pradesh, will add to the Inca Center's growing list of properties across the world. The company has 45 shopping centers across Europe, Russia, and China. It plans to enter the United States this year and looking to foray deeper into the existing markets of operation. The Indian shopping center is expected to take around 2 to 3 years to build, the industry expert said. And given Inca Group focus on quality, the land for the project, a 48,000 square meter plot, has been acquired in Noida, the company said on Friday. That's all from the news, and I would request roll number 4 to take over.
Good morning, all. Good morning, sir. I am Alina K. Biju, roll number 4, presenting the news. India to file appeal against Keynes' 1.2 billion arbitration award. So India will file an appeal against the Kane Arbitration Award, which it lost soon, and will defend its sovereign rights to tax. As said by the sources, the Kane Energy CEO, Simon Thompson, had met Finance Secretary on Friday seeking a swift enforcement of more than $1.2 billion award during his meeting with top finance ministry officials. So the story so far is detailed like on January 2007, Kane India was listed on the BSE, and on December 2011, Vedanta completes the acquisition of 58.5% in the Kane India from Kane PLC for $8.67 billion. On March 2012, Finance Ministry introduces retrospective tax amendment in the finance bill. And on January 2014, IT launches a retrospective tax probe into transactions undertaken prior to IPO. On March 2015, Kane PLC starts international arbitration proceedings against the Indian government, and on December 2020, Tribunal orders India to pay Kane $1.2 billion in damage plus interest and cost. And on February 2021, Kane files cases in US, UK, and Netherlands court to enforce the award. So that is a short about the case. And India had argued during the Kane arbitration that non-compliance with the tax demand was not covered under the international treaties, and that the amendment to the Finance Act 2012, which is a retrospective amendment, was only in the nature of clarification. So that's all about my news. I'm over to roll number 5.
Good morning to all our present here. My name is Andreskula Jose, and I'll be talking about India's foreign exchange reserve status. So India's foreign exchange reserve fell by 249 million, leaving it at 583.697 billion in the week which ended on February 12th, 2021. In the previous week, the reserve was also declining. It declined by 6.24 billion and leaving it again at 583.945 billion. Okay, it had touched a record high on the week before that, leaving it at 590.185 billion in the week which ended at 29 January 2021. In the reporting week, the decrease in the foreign exchange reserves was mainly due to the fall in the foreign currency assets, a major component of the overall reserves. So what is foreign currency assets? Okay, it's expressed in dollar terms. Foreign currency assets include the effect of appreciation and depreciation of non-US units like euro, pound, and yen held in the foreign exchange reserves. So the FACs decreased by 1.8 billion to 540.5951 billion in the weekly data present by the RBI. Even though there was a decrease in the foreign exchange reserves, the gold rate actually increased. The gold reserve rose by 1.26 billion, leaving it at 36.22 billion in the week ended in February 12th. That's all about the foreign exchange reserve of India. Passing it on to the next number. Thank you.
So good morning everyone, I'm Angelin and today I'll be reading the news on increase in sales of PNG amidst a shift to digital marketing and 100 million investment in advertising. So PNG's revenue rose from 9% to 19.3 billion in the first quarter of 2021 as per its recent quarterly earnings. E-commerce sales increased to about 50% for the quarter and now represent probably 11 to 12% of total sales. The company increased marketing spending for over 100 million in the quarter while cutting overhead, media, agency, and production costs. P&G continues to cut costs and reinvest in advertising as the company sees an increase in sale of its products, especially as cleaning, health, and hygiene take on a greater importance during the pandemic. As it did during the early days of the pandemic, P&G continues to increase marketing as the health crisis changes consumer behaviors. At the same time, the company is also well positioned to see an enduring benefit from putting a bigger focus on online shopping and digital marketing. P&G has also started increasing more money in advertisement, especially due to reasons like consumers spending most of their time at home, consuming more media, and keeping the pandemic front in mind. P&G also had the foresight to recently change its structure in respect to product innovation, marketing approach, and internal structure changes, which have helped prepare itself for a more digital grocery shopping and digital marketing future as the pandemic has accelerated these trends faster than before. Some of the consumer behavior changes were evident since last March, which was expected to persist even after the pandemic receded, which left P&G in a position of strength despite future economic weakness and a potential decline in demand. And that's all about my news. Over to the next one.
Good morning, everyone. So I'll be speaking on the headline Star Commodity Becomes a Lagarde. Gold's worst start to a year since 1991. And for the news in detail, gold began the year with lofty expectations on the back of a record high and its biggest annual gain in a decade. Instead, the precious metal is off to its worst start in 30 years. The metal, which surged last year on pandemic-induced haven buying, low interest rates, and stimulus spending, is now 2021's worst performer in the Bloomberg Commodity Index. It's suddenly facing a host of unexpected stumbling blocks. With rates going higher and inflation expectations peaking out, we're seeing a lot of profit taking in gold, and people are going for gold into industrial metals such as copper, said Peter Thomas, Senior Vice President at Zaner Group in Chicago. Gold's start to the year is the worst since 1991, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. Inflation expectations have also climbed, with 10-year US break-evens touching the highest since 2014 earlier this week. Still, that may not be as supportive for gold as it typically would be, according to Carsten Menge, an analyst at Julius Baer Group Limited. Still, some see prospects for gold to make a comeback, betting that the inability of governments and central banks to normalize stimulus policy will see it climb again. Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated said in late January that with prospectus for additional stimulus and Federal Reserve interest rates on hold, the metal remains a compelling investment for the medium to long-term investor. For us, the behavior of gold at the moment resembles that of a tsunami. In the first phase, the water recedes, and then in the second phase, it comes back all the more violently, said Daniel Braisman, an analyst at Commerzbank Bank AG. At the end of the year, we now see gold at $2,000 per ounce. That's all for the headlines. Thank you.
Good morning to all present. I'm Anshana Abraham, roll number 9. So I'm going to present on Forex reserve down by $249 millions to 583.697 billions. So the country foreign exchange reserve fell by $249 millions to 583.697 billions in the week ended February 12. RBI data showed on Friday. In the previous week, the reserve had declined by $6.24 billions to stand at $583.945 billions. It had touched a record high of $590.185 billions in the week ended January 29, 2021. In the reporting week, the decrease in reserve was mainly due to fall in foreign currency assets, major components of overall reserves. So the FCA's declines by $1.387 billions to $540.951 billions. Weekly data by Reserve Bank of India showed. Expressed in dollar terms, the foreign currency asset includes the effects of appreciation or depreciation of non-US units like the euro, pounds, and yen held in the foreign exchange reserves. After falling off 2 consecutive weeks, the gold reserve rose by $1.26 billions to $36.227 billions in the week ended February 12. So the special drawing rights with the International Monetary Funds rose by rupees $10 millions to $1.513 billions. However, the country's reserve positions with the IMF declined by $132 millions to $5.106 millions in the reporting week as per the data. That's all for today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Janani S, and I'll be talking about Inox Air Products announcing rupees 2,000 crore investment in industrial gases. Inox Air Products plans to invest rupees 2,000 crore to build 8 new air separation units across the country. This will be India's largest greenfield investment plan in the industrial gases sector. With a combined capacity to make more than 1,500 TPD of liquid gases, the expansion will take Inox AP's total liquid gases production to 4,800 TPD by 2024. The investment would be funded by a mix of debt and internal cash occurrence. Inox AP's new plants will be strategically located in proximity of high demand growth areas in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, and West Bengal. The plants will produce liquid oxygen, liquid nitrogen, and liquid argon and will be commissioned during the course of FY 2022-24. The bulk availability of industrial and medical gases will ensure constant supplies for the electronic manufacturing, pharmaceutical sector, besides helping iron, steel, and automobile industries to ramp up their production capacities. The projects will generate more than 1,000 direct and indirect employment opportunities in their respective regions. The 8 plants will be set up on a sequential basis over the next 12 to 36 months. Thank you.
Good morning, one and all. Myself, Anthony Babu. Today, I'll be presenting the news. RBI puts ₹1,000 withdrawal cap on Deccan Urban Cooperative Bank. The Reserve Bank on Friday said it has barred Karnataka-based Deccan Urban Cooperative Bank Limited from granting fresh loans or accepting deposits, and customers cannot withdraw more than ₹1,000 from their savings account for a period of 6 months. The lender has also been asked not to make fresh investment or incur any liability without its prior permission. The RBI said it issued the direction to Chief Executive Officer of the bank on Thursday, February 18th. It has also asked the lender to desist from disbursing any payment, whether in discharge of its liabilities or otherwise, or disposing of any of its assets except as notified in the RBI direction. Considering the bank's present liquidity position, a sum not exceeding ₹1,000 only of the total balance across all saving bank or current accounts or any other account of a depositor may be allowed to be withdrawn, RBI said in a release on Friday. Thank you so much.
Yes, immediately 12. Who is roll number 12?
Hello.
Yes, brother, start.
Yeah. Good morning, dear professor and my fellow classmates. So I'm Dominic Matthew, roll number 12, presenting on the article titled Tata Chemicals zooms 10% on report and company in talks to buy Arkane's unit. Shares of Tata Chemicals hit a fresh record high of ₹552 after rising 5% on the BSE in intra-day trade on Wednesday. The stock has surged 10% in the past 2 trading days on report that the Tata Group Commodity Chemicals Company is in advanced talks for Arkane's industrial salt unit. Tata Chemicals was trading 4% higher at ₹543 as compared to 0.12% decline in the S&P BSE Sensex. The trading volumes on the counter nearly doubled, with a combined around 12 million equity shares changing hands on the National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange till the time of writing this report. According to Bloomberg, Tata Chemicals is in advanced talks to acquire the industrial salt unit of Arkane Group that could value the business at ₹450 crore at a minimum. The board of Tata Chemicals is all set to discuss the potential offer as soon as this month. The report suggested courting the people familiar with the matter. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to present the news headlines on the topic Insurance Remain Dividend over COVID-19, status as pre-existing condition. A pre-existing condition generally means a health condition a person is facing prior to purchasing a policy. Some insurers have the opinion that COVID-19 cannot be treated as a pre-existing condition while issuing the policies to customers who might have the infection but subsequently recovered from it. Experts have said it will depend on each insurer and the underwriting standards whether they want to treat the COVID and the complications arising from it as a pre-existing condition. Anything that increases the risk for insurance will call for a re-rising condition This is the principle of underwriting. If the research proves that the COVID results in anything permanent, it will fall under the pre-existing category. But not all COVID patients behave in the same manner. Some show mild symptoms and recover about a brief quarantine. Still others suffer for serious ailments requiring ventilations. According to the insurance regulator, pre-existing disease is a condition in which medical advice or treatment was provided by the doctor within a time span of 48 months before the effective date of the health insurance policy issued by the health insurance company. Thank you.
Yes, 15.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, proceed.
So am I clear?
Yes, proceed. Please.
Okay. Good morning, sir. So I am here to talk about the topic how Jeff Bezos thinks, based on a book review of Invent and Wander, the collected writings of Jeff Bezos. Amazon and Jeff Bezos have been the subject of multiple books and newspapers and magazine articles. When you have built the world's biggest online retailer plus cloud platform business, been the richest man for several years in a row, you are bound to be chronicled everywhere. Most of the business writings has focused on either the Amazon journey or Mr. Bezos and his management style. Even the books focusing on Amazon have largely tried to decipher what are the principles and the management style that helped him build such a juggernaut. So basically, the book Invent and Wander, it is a collected writings of Jeff Bezos written by Walter Isaacson. In this collection of Jeff Bezos' writings, his unique and strikingly original annual shareholder letters plus numerous speeches and interviews are provided to give an insight to its readers. Also, it includes a various styles of business value, strategy, and executions like the importance of day one mindset, why it's all about the long term, customer obsessed, etc. And this book also includes the latest issue, that is what the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us. Each insights offers new way of thinking to today's challenges and more importantly to tomorrow. This book mainly focuses on Jeff Bezos' valuable statements and his interviews and his speeches. So that's all about Jeff Bezos. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, all. So I will be reading the news on asset quality decreases, but pace of bad loan addition come down, RBI. As a result of demonetization, bankers believe there could be some pressure on asset quality, especially accounts. The Reserve Bank of India, though the total bad loans in the system have swollen, the pace of incremental additions has come down. This reflects well for the sector, as it indicates the worst is behind. From the September quarter results announced by banks, it has seen that while there has been an incremental percentage of gross and net non-performing assets, there has been marginal reduction in restructured advances and slight uptick in overall stressed assets in the banking system. But the information of incremental non-performing assets has decelerated, said RBI Deputy Governor at the bi-monthly monetary policy. At the end of the quarter ended September, gross non-performing assets increased to 6,99,854 crores compared with 6,48,890 crore in the quarter ended June. However, the pace of addition has come down as the quarter-on-quarter additions between June and September was rupees 50,964 crores. In the previous quarter, between March and June, the amount of bad loan added was higher at 58,330 crore. So that's all about the news. Thank you.
Very good morning to everybody present here. I'm Jason, roll number 17, and I will be presenting an article from the Business Standard under RBI policy. So the title of this news article is Sovereign Bonds Plunge as RBI Holds Key Rate. The yield on government notes due September 2026 jumped to 6.41% in Mumbai. The prices from RBI's trading system has shown this. Sovereign bonds yields climbed the most in 3 years after policymakers kept interest rates unchanged ahead of a probable increase in the US borrowing cost this month. The Monetary Policy Committee, led by Reserve Bank of India Governor Urjit Patel, left the benchmark repurchase rate at 6.25%, according to a central bank statement in Mumbai on Wednesday. The outcome was predicted by only 8 of 44 economists in a Bloomberg survey, while 31 expected a cut to 6% and 5 saw a reduction to 5.75%. That is my news for today. Over to rule number 18. Thank
you. Yes, roll number 19. Jitu.
Good morning to all. My name is Jitu Agustin George, roll number 19, and I am presenting on PDs suffering yield war between RBI and bidders. Government securities auctions are caught in a tug of war between bidders demanding higher yields and the Reserve Bank of India's reluctance to concede that, leading to development on primary dealers. Of the 4 GSEC auctions conducted since the budget, only one was fully subscribed without PD support. In the GSEC auctions conducted since the budget announcement, the RBI devolved GSECs aggregating about 37,000 crore on PDs. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had announced in her budget speech that the government would need to borrow another 80,000 crore in February-March, and the gross borrowing from the market for FY22 would be around 12 lakh crore. The market wants higher yields, but the central bank, which is the banker and debt manager to the government, wants to keep the yields from rising as they have implications for the cost of government's borrowing. Rising GSEC yields will have a ripple effect as the cost of borrowing of states and India too will rise in sync. Since January end, the yield on the widely traded 10-year GSEC in 2030 and carrying 5.77% coupon rate has increased by about 23 basis points to 6.1792%, with its price declining by rupees 1.59 to 97.1. Referring to the development of 2 GSECs aggregating about 21,594 crore on PDs at Thursday's auction, Marsban Irani, Chief Investment Officer, Fixed Income LIC Mutual Fund, said the bids were on the higher side, and the RBI wanted to give a signal that it was not comfortable at those yields. Hence, the auction got devolved. That's all the news. Thank you.
Next, 21, Jojo.
Good morning, sir, and good morning, everybody. I'm Jojo Varghese. Today, I am presenting on PD suffers in yield war between RBI and
Switch on your camera, Jojo.
Okay, sir.
Yes, proceed.
Auctions higher yield in the Reserve of India leading to development on primary yield. Only for government securities auctions conducted since the budget, only one was fully subscribed with the PD support. In the government securities auctions conducted since the budget announcement, the RBI devolved government securities aggregating about 37 crore on PDs. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had announced in her budget speech that the government would need to borrow another 80,000 crore in February and March, and the gross borrowing from the market for FY22 would be around 12 lakh crore. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Okay, next.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jinto Vincent. I'm going to speak on the topic. Iron ore price leaped to near 10-year high in the global market. steel industry to feel the shock. Steel prices in the country could be in for some upward movement after the iron ore prices in the global market have surged to near 10-year high. Last year, steel prices were hiked by the producers from June, mainly since demand recovered 90% of the pre-COVID levels. During the nationwide lockdown, particularly between March and June, the capacity utilization in the steel sector was 25%, putting pressure on the companies to look for a way out through price spikes. In addition, supply of iron ore, the main raw material for the steel firms, turned tight as small mines shut down during the COVID-19 lockdown. Thank you.
Next, Joel Paul.
Yes, this is your fellow classmate Joel Paul, roll number 22 from The Hindu. Do you know a kg of CO2 can give 400 grams of omega-3 fatty acids valued at around $800 in the market? Yes, today's headline is MNCs keep keen on IOC technology that makes omega-3 fatty acids from CO2. Indian Oil Corporation has been getting overtures from many international companies for its homegrown technology for converting carbon dioxide into omega-3 fatty acids and lipids. Disclosing this to the business line in recent conversation, IOC Director and Research Head SS Ramakumar mentioned in this context the names of German chemical giants BASF and the French refiner Total. The question from many abroad is, when could you license the technology to us? IOC intends to build by this year and a demonstration plant that will process 200 tons of carbon dioxide daily to make omega-3 fatty acids. Once the technology is showcased, we think of a huge plant. A kg of CO2 can give 400 grams of omega-3 fatty acid valued around $800 in the market. In addition, the process can produce 300 grams of lipids, water-soluble organic compounds, which can be used to make bioethanol. This technology, therefore, kills two birds with one stone, utilizing CO2, a greenhouse gas, which would otherwise take up residence in the atmosphere and would create a green global warming and produce a high-value product, namely omega-3 fatty acid. From past few years, IOC Center for Advanced Bioenergy Research in Faridabad has been straining itself to develop a way of producing omega-3 using microbial algae. These algae need a carbon as feed. The traditional carbon nutrient glucose is way too expensive for this process. However, a good alternative to glucose are chemical called acetates. How to make acetates from CO2? IOC solved this problem by taking stake in a US company, LanzaTech, which had technology for it. In this way, it hyphenated two processes to end up with omega-3 fatty acids, CO2 to acids, and acetates to omega-3 using algae. The first leg needs a complete lack of oxygen, while the second has to have abundance of it. Currently, the IOC is running a 10 kg plant to test out the process, which according to Ramakumar is the world's first of its kind. With it, IOC is generating a lot of data and quality of omega-3 fatty acids.
Yes, enough, Joel. We'll move on to Laldin Sudha.
That's for today. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Laldin Sanga, roll number 24, and I will be speaking on TCS. May have invested up to 1,500 crores in Kerala Digital Hub. Global IT leaders TCS will invest an estimate 1,200 to 1,500 crores to expand operations in memorandum understanding with Technopark here for leasing 97 acres of land as its Technopark campus to set up digital hub for engineering, products development, and IT service across manufacturing, defense, and aerospace sectors with focus on new generation technologies. An official spokesman said that TCS intends to complete the first phase of project over the next 22 to 28 months, which itself is expected to generate 5,000 jobs. Chief Minister Piniyari Vijayan, in whose presence the MOU was exchanged, said that TCS investments comes at a time where big IT companies have either cancelled or postponed their plans for committing big money for expansion. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next.
Okay, good.
Good morning. This is Lino Marie Anthony. I'm roll number 25. I am here to present an article titled
You
Earnings.
can switch on your video camera.
Yes, sir. So now is it visible?
No, ma. Yes.
Yeah. So earnings see a rebound, but demand still weak. While the economic recovery seems to be taking shape, demand is yet to make a convincing comeback, shows an analysis of the December 2020 quarter results of 1,772 companies, including banks and financials. India Incorporated reported flat revenue growth of 0.2% in this period over the same quarter last year. However, slight savings in input and borrowing cost and the effect of a low base gave a fillip to the bottom line. The bottom line was also helped by a turnaround in 208 companies out of 478 that reported losses in the 3 months ended December 2019. For instance, steel manufacturers such as Tata Steel, Jindal Steel, and SAIL turned around to profit its quarter on the back of rise in steel prices. Profit after tax for 1,772 companies grew 52.4% year on year in December 2020 quarter. Thank you.
Yes, Manuel. Manuel Paul. Roll number 26. Then we will move on to 28.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Good morning. Okay. Good morning to all. Myself, Megha Skaria, roll number 28. Today, I will be speaking about SGX Euroclear Bank launch Orchid bond structure. News in details. The Orchid bond structure will provide easier access to Singapore bonds for international investors. The Singapore Exchange has partnered with Brussels-based Euroclear Bank to provide global distribution channels for domestic bond issuances. This offering will deepen the bond market's liquidity pool and has the potential to significantly expand the issuer's investor base. SGX has more than 6,600 securities listed from 1,600 issuers across 66 countries in its platform. This amounts to an approximate 2.2 trillion US dollar. The Orchid bond structure will provide access to these bonds directly through SGX or through Euroclear, the central depository. Within our ecosystem, we see continued scope for this structure, laying the foundation for ESG bond issuance in foreign currencies in the near future. Financial institution HSBC is the arranger, custodian bank, and paying agent for this venture. SGX and Euroclear are looking into extending the service to other regional issuers. That's all about my news. Over to roll number 29.
30.
Okay, sir, 30.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to News Hour. Today's business news. Maple Tree Logistics Trust to acquire 5 South Korean logistics properties. News in detail. Maple Tree Logistics Trust, or MLT, is set to acquire 5 logistics assets in South Korea for an estimated $334.8 million as it aims to strengthen its portfolio and competitive positioning in the country through the addition of modern, high-quality assets, the company announced. In a filing, MLT said that the properties will have an implied net property income yield of about 4.5% based on the current purchase price. The acquisitions are expected to be assertive to MLT's distribution per unit, and the group's aggregate leverage ratio is projected to be approximately 38.9% upon completion of the acquisition. According to MLT, the investment will capitalize on the growth opportunities from accelerated e-commerce adoption and the growing demand of quality warehouse spaces. MLT Chief Executive Officer NG Kiat said the acquisition is a strategic opportunity for the group to acquire a portfolio of high specification warehouses. The acquisitions will increase our gross floor area in South Korea by 40%, enabling us to better cater to the current and future needs of our customer and capture growth opportunities in logistics market, NG said. This is Melvin Thomas, live from studio, signing off.
Good. Next, 32.
So good morning, everyone. This is Mohammad Naushir Ahmad. So my news heading is, with the USD in decline, how else can investors hedge risk? The US dollar has long been the benchmark for stable currency. It has worked as a defensive asset and affirmed as cash king. But in 2020, the US Federal Reserve took a defensive, unprecedented measure to provide monetary support to the population, like printing dollars. In a few months, the global dollar supply has soared by about 20%. And although inflation in the US is still very low, Citibank predicts that the dollar will devalue by the same 20% in 2021. And the dollar index has already dropped to a third-year low. If not US dollar, then what? So the other options are euro and other world currencies. The same problem, but it'll be a little bit softer. According to Dollar Optimist, cash is still the king. And if someone encroaches on domination of American dollar, then it is some other cash. The euro, the British pound, the Japanese yen, etc. The next option we have is cryptocurrencies. Algorithm protection against inflation and long-term growth, but its own risk. Of all assets of cryptocurrencies, perhaps the best shown itself against the backdrop of COVID crisis. Although in Feb and March, they collapsed even deeper than the stock indexes, the recovery turned out to be much faster. And since October, the dynamics of cryptocurrencies has almost completely ceased to depend on the whims of stock market. The third option is index funds.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's it.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. And my roll number is 33, Neeraj Jonathan. And my topic was blockchain. It's the relationship with cryptocurrency and beyond. Bitcoin is the decentralized ledger of all transactions across a network that is classified as peer-to-peer. It is best understood as a value of exchange, just like any modern paper currency, such as rupee. All users must possess their own individual cryptographic key, which is much like a standard password. This key utilizes a personal string of data in order to allow account holders access to their wallets of value. Many different industries are looking at it to improve areas such as voting, security, advertising, secret documents, journalism, and much, much more. These are the questions. There are questions as to the legitimacy of global application of the concept in its current form. It needs to be legitimized for legal and data protection and the protection of technology's ever-growing user base. It's a blank canvas due to its transversatility, means that the scope to implement blockchain processes relies heavily on its distributed and far-reaching nature. It could be a crucial key into the advancement of society, with these giving players in different parts of the same process a single network. Thank you, sir.
Yes, 34.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Nikshita Rajendran, roll number 34. I'm going to talk about e-commerce technology. The 21st century has been a milestone age for several forms and types of technology advancements. More people are now shopping online instead of visiting nearby stores to make a purchase. However, when it comes to going through an e-commerce transition for a specific section of market, it is not as straightforward as it may seem. For instance, the cannabis sector has been experienced a significant amount of backlash and challenges, limiting its growth to an online marketplace. As per Emory research, the global marijuana market was estimated to close to USD 14.3 billion in 2016. By 2024, the sales number through e-commerce platforms can reach USD 63.5 billion. Old school ways of marketing and customer relationship management are still very much in practice. In recent years, traditional methods of shopping have experienced a significant blow. Furthermore, not many people are stepping out to buy an cannabis product from nearby dispensaries with the never-ending pandemic crisis. However, for any organization to survive and thrive, a base of returning consumers is vital. Increased scalability. If you were not aware, brick and mortar retailers could impose limitations on your business scalability. Finally, I conclude, the past years has witnessed a significant shift in the cannabis market, with many companies finding it difficult to thrive and survive. However, you can still expand your business's reachability and scalability by developing an online store on an e-commerce platform. Since the lockdown has been enabled people to stay indoors, this might serve you as an ideal opportunity to promote your business, educate potential viewers, and increase the figures through e-commerce technology. Thank you. Over to the next person.
Good morning, everyone. I'm roll number 35, Pooja Jain, and I'm going to talk about NETS and KPMG explores the power of AI in fraud prevention. Man and machine are the perfect pair when it comes to fighting payment fraud, according to a new white paper from European payments industry leader, NETS and multinational professional services provider, KPMG. Fighting fraud with a model of models explains how utilizing human expertise in combination with artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies can significantly increase the accuracy of fraud prevention center services. Fighting fraud with a model of models explores the theoretical approach behind NETS Fraud Ensemble, an AI-powered anti-fraud engine developed in collaboration with KPMG, which can reduce fraudulent transactions by up to 40% on top of existing AI fraud prevention measures for the benefits of banks, merchants, cardholders, as well as society in general. Head of Digital Fraud Intelligence and Research NETS comments, it's time for financial institutions to stop playing catch-up with fraudsters and instead get ahead of the curve. The business of fraud prevention has become increasingly convoluted with the mass adoption of e-commerce, increases in cross-border payments, and the growing popularity of new digital payment methods, all adding new layers of complexity. Humans cannot tackle these challenges alone. Until now, the use of true machine learning to fight payment card fraud has been limited. We need it now. There are patterns in the data which are hugely valuable in the fight against fraud, but they are too complex for the human brain to identify. Machine learning can not only find these, it can...
Okay, you can move on to next, Pratik.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, all. I'm Pratik, roll number 36. I'll be reading an article by European Business Magazine, heading Bitflyer launches instant buy to make buying cryptocurrency more accessible. It was published on December 5, 2019. So, leading cryptocurrency exchange Bitflyer had announced the launch of instant buy on its buy and selling platform in Europe. So the feature available on desktop and smartphone allows users to buy cryptocurrencies directly from Bitflyer application using credit card, debit card, or local instant transfer methods such as SoFort, Ideal, and GiroPay. So the instant buy is built for users looking for the fastest and simplest way to buy cryptocurrencies, as well as beginners looking for an all-in-one solution for purchasing, storing, and securing their cryptocurrencies and later selling it. So Andy Bernard,
Okay,
okay, thank you, sir.
37.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Preetham Loret, roll number 37. Today's news is based on Tata Group. N. Chandrasekaran, Chairman, Tata Group, told Business Today that there is a huge opportunity to build the electronic ecosystem in the country. The recently floated group company Tata Electronic has signed an MOU with Tamil Nadu government to set up plans for manufacturing mobile components. The company has announced an investor rupees 4,684 crores in the new plant in the Krishnagiri that will employ around 18,250 people. Taipei-based Pegaton, which is the second largest contract manufacturer of iPhone, has also signed another MOU with state government for investing 1,100 crores. According to the source, Tata Electronics will manufacture components for iPhone. Tata Medical and Diagnostic, another company floated last year, will also manufacture ventilators. They are trying to create a large-scale business and will be building it over to the next few years. That's
Okay,
all for
please,
today's
I will
news.
move
Thank
on
you.
to 38. Raksha.
Yes, sir. So good morning, everyone. I'm Raksha and my roll number is 38. So the headline I'll be discussing in detail is SC directs RBI to frame rules for locker facility management in banks within 6 months. So the Supreme Court on Friday, comprising Justices M.M. Shantana Gowda and Vineet Saran, ordered the Reserve Bank of India to lay down rules within 6 months, mandating the steps to be taken by the banks with respect to locker facility. People are hesitant to keep their liquid assets at home as we are steadily moving towards a cashless economy. And due to the rising demand for such services, lockers have become an essential service provided by every banking institution. The very purpose for which the customer avails the locker facility in banks is so that they can be rest assured that their assets are being properly taken care of. And therefore, it is necessary that the RBI lays down comprehensive directions mandating the steps to be taken by the bank with respect to locker facility or safe deposit facility management. In view of the same, the court directed the RBI to issue suitable rules or regulations as said within 6 months from the date of this judgment. The bench also held...
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Rima. Rima? Yes, we'll move on to Ritvij. Or Rima is there. Okay, Rima, proceed. Quick. I think some issues with Rima. Okay, Ritvij, you can continue. Ritvij?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, Ritvij.
Yeah, so good morning, all of you. Today's my topic is Europe will regret stealing London's finance business. So, according to the Bloomberg, the last-minute Brexit deal struck in December left many important issues unaddressed, including what will replace the unaffected access to Europe market that UK finances firm once enjoyed. The two sides of now aim to reach some kind of agreement by March. In the meantime, UK-based firm can't provide a number of service to Europe customers, including credit ratings and trading in stock and derivatives. Trading in share of Europe-based companies has already shifted almost entirely to continental venues such as Paris, Amsterdam, etc. It's easy to see the UK loss as fair compensation. You wanted out, so bear the consequences. This
Okay,
week,
Ritvij, enough. We'll move on to Robin. Next, who is there? Yes.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Robin, and the news that I'm going to read today is Australian Stock Exchange endures second worst day of 2021. Facebook could face tightened European Union regulations. So Facebook has had an enthralling, wrong turn when it comes to Australia, and we are going to have a detailed look upon to it. Australia shares have suffered the second worst day since the year began, as Wall Street eased off its record highs and Facebook shares were sold off more heavily than other tech stocks. Retail sales lifted in January compared to the prior months. ASX was weighed down by losses from Australia banking.
Okay, Robin, we'll move on to next. Who is there? Preeti. Preeti?
Yes, sir. Today I would be talking about the tightened European regulation.
Switch on your camera.
Sir, I don't know, sir.
Okay, proceed.
Okay, sir. So the Australian shares have suffered the second day worst since the year began, as well as Wall Street eased off its record highs, and Facebook shares were sold off more heavily than other tech stocks. The company's action comes after the months of tension with the Australian government, which has proposed legislation that would force tech platforms to pay news publishers for content. The decision effectively makes good on a threat Facebook made during a hearing in Australia's Senate last month when the company suggested it could block content in the country if the bill becomes a law. Due to this, though the retail sales lifted by 0.6 PC in January compared to the prior month, but the ASX was weighed down by losses from Australia's banking, mining, and healthcare giants.
Okay, enough. Move on to Sanoj.
Good morning, everyone. I'll be presenting an article on Australian financial news. Shares on the Australian market were almost 0.5% higher, mostly due to a gain of more than 1% for banks. The S&P benchmark index was higher by 31.8 points. The financial sector was up by 1.41%, and consumer discretionaries was rose to 0.83%. This rise comes despite a negative lead from Wall Street. Investors there are mostly sold stocks after big rallies following expectations of more economic stimulus from a Democrat-controlled US Congress. Investors expect Joe Biden will provide larger cash payments for most Americans and other programs once he starts the role this month. That's all.
Okay, enough. Okay, thank you, Sanuj. Now everybody switch on your video camera. I'm going to ask the question. You have to chat to me personally, to commerce and management. Okay? Switch on your camera also. I have to see all of your face. And at the end also I have to see. Okay, the question is according to Janani. Janani, you need not answer. She mentioned a nice news. One of the companies going to invest in green investment, 2,000 crores. An organization is ready to invest in green investment called 2,000 crores. You have to identify the name of the company. It is somewhat equivalent to or related to our cinema theaters. Same equivalent name will come. Okay, that company is going to invest 2,000 crores in green investment. Name that organization. Now you can chat, and meanwhile everybody switch on that one. I'm going to take the group photo. As I'm seeing only few images. Now only Jitu is coming. Come on. Switch on your video. Yes. Only few are there. What about others? Yes, I have Ritvij send the message. Except Janani, others have to send. Nice to see all of you. Still some more students, they are not switching on. Only chat box is having few answers. Type. Yes. Okay, students, the time is over. So we will meet you in offline. Okay? You can show your image. I am going to take. Sanoj, you can also take a photo. Sanoj, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because after that, we are going to meet only in offline. So last image from your home. So nice to meet all of you. So far, I am coming to your house to see you. So next week onwards, you are coming here to meet me. Okay? So big difference from online to offline. Let us enjoy your home class till now. Next week onwards, you are going to enjoy the Kristu Jayanti campus. Okay, welcome to Kristu Jayanti campus. We will meet. Until then, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.